So, morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday weekly webinar, and lovely to have all of you lovely people on board with us this morning again. Lots of familiar names on there, and it's just great to be able to speak with you all again. So today, as we said last week, what we were going to do is have a little look at the subject of how your first week back has been. Obviously, for those of you who have gone back to work, last week, those of you who joined us last week's webinar, it was interesting, wasn't it, Howard? We did a live poll on the session where we asked people how many people were planning to go back on the 4th. Of all the people that were on that particular session, it was about, off the top of my head, about 2/3, I would say, were unsure of going back. I don't think they were. Some obviously were. And there's been, speaking to members over the week, there's been a bit of a mixed review, mixed bag. Some people have said, yeah, no problem, I'm all PP'd up and I know what I'm doing, I've done your toolkit, fantastic, off I go. And some people have just been a little bit more cautious about it. They've got more reason to be for health reasons and goodness knows what. So it's been a real mixture. Would you agree, Howard?
Yeah, sorry, my mic's not working properly. Yes, I would agree absolutely with you. It's been the feedback we've been getting of people, what they've expected to go back to work to has also been quite diverse too. So some have been expecting to go back very busy, and others have gone back very busy. And so it's a bit of a mixture in the country. I know Scotland and Wales are not back yet. They're only still doing the key worker tests, etc. But in terms of England, it is a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, so for Scotland, I mean, as with DIA put an email out this morning, so motorcycle instruction and theory and hazard tests can restart on the 22nd July in Scotland, but currently they're still awaiting a start date for resumption of training and also testing for Category B and vocational tests. So that was part of Nicola Sturgeon's announcement yesterday. So the DVSA are working with the Scottish and Welsh, governments, and they're speaking to everybody all the time. It's been continuously monitored, so you haven't been forgotten if that does affect you. It's just they're working with everyone just to make sure everyone's as safe as they possibly can be. I mean, that's the update at the moment. The other thing, which I'm sure has pleased a lot of you, is the update on the toilets at the test centres. Through pressure from DIA and other NASP members, DVSA has announced that the decision to close the toilets only for certain people, they've gone back on that now. So they have now, if a pupil needs and a trainer, if they need to use the loo, if your test centre has one, then you'd need to request that with the staff at the test centre. They will escort that person, or escort you or your pupil to the, not stand outside on ceremony. I don't think it's quite that official, but they will just make sure that you find your way there okay, don't get lost on the way, and any users of the loos will be expected to sanitize the loos before and after use. Cleaning materials will be provided for that purpose, but so that's a good news, because test nerves, they do that to you, don't they? They sort of, you think, I haven't had a cup of tea or anything for the last at least 2 or 3 hours. I went an hour ago before I left home, but I am bursting to go for so it's just, that's what nerves do to us, and they do to our pupils. And so that's welcome news, at least that's changed. The other thing is about the waiting rooms. At the moment, they are still unfortunately remaining closed because of the small gatherings. I mean, DVSA are doing what they can in terms of different test times and things, but they will be they are closed off in many cases to allow the staff that work at the test centres to allow them to spread and to socially distance. So often waiting areas are being used as offices from the DVSA staff there and examiners. So that's it's unfortunate, and obviously we all wish we weren't in this situation, but as DIA and as NASP, we are in close contact with the DVSA. We are continuing to feed questions back to DVSA as NASP, and we are getting some answers to a lot of your questions, and we are going to be holding another meeting with them next week on Zoom. How many of you saw the recording from last Friday? That was the first time we'd done that, and so I think it was generally pretty well received by lots of people. Had some good feedback from that, and so we'll be doing another one next week. So what'd be interesting is if you saw yesterday, we put out a member update to say if you could submit your burning questions to us. And sorry we couldn't give you a little bit more time, but if you know what questions you wanted to ask, so we figured it shouldn't take you too long just to pop those across on that email that we sent out. We're gathering all of that in, and anything that hasn't been asked and answered and put out in publicly already, we're just going to pop that in front of DVSA and the other associations as NASP are doing the same, and we hope to have some more answers to some of more of your questions. Obviously today during this session, it's really useful, because if you have any of those questions, if you can find that email, put that on that form, that'd be great, because all the questions will be in one place. If you think, what, I can't find it, didn't get it, or don't know what you're talking about, there is, as Howard said, there is on your little menu on the left, I think you'll find it, the questions box on this webinar, so you can put some questions in there. What we'll do at the end, we'll gather those up and add them to the list, and make sure that we submit those, the ones that haven't been asked before, and take out duplicates and things. So the other thing as well is have a little look at the NASP website. If you just type into Google National Association Strategic Partnership, NASP, NASP, pop that into a search engine, it'll bring you to the homepage, and you'll be able to see that video that I'm referring to with the NASP and DVSA last week, and also the questions, answered questions from DVSA on there as well, if you haven't seen already. So do have a little look at that if you've got a few extra minutes after today's webinar. So this session is open forum, really. It's an Ask Us Anything. So if you went back to work on the 4th officially, how's it been? That's the only question really that we've got for you at the moment. So we'd like you to share that with us. So pop that anything, any questions or comments or things in the chat. We'll do our best to go through as many of them as we can. So let's have a little look. Let's have a little look. Are you having a little look at the questions, Howard?
Yeah, I'm doing them.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got any to share, we'll keep it to first names only, where people have asked the questions. What questions have you got? Are you dealing with at the moment?
I'm just dealing with will there be enough time for pupils to use the toilets plus clean them before and after? If we're only to arrive 5 minutes before the test starting, could get pretty busy where a few tests go out at the same time. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have the specifics of what the logistics are going to be and what test times are going to be. All we know is there's less tests being delivered during the day. I think it's a maximum of 5, I think it is, per examiner, and some will be staggered. So you're not going to have 5 or 6 tests going at the same time because of movements in the car park and people standing around is a health and safety issue. So they will be staggered. You will probably find some unusual time given to you when your students are allowed to rebook, be odd combinations of times. We haven't had any other information apart from what was issued last week about the 5 minutes, arrive 5 minutes before. We do know that the tests can be delayed by up to 2 or 3 minutes. So they might just have to they are allowing more time for tests anyway. And I do believe that slots are not doing the usual 50 minutes, whatever it is. I think they're being allowed I think they're being allowed 75 minutes per test because of the situation with the car parks. Don't quote me, but I have read that all the test slots are longer. I know the key worker ones were supposed to be as well, so they have made them slightly longer, but it's not to test the student any longer. It's because logistics at the test centres, so there will be more time to move people around.
Yeah, I believe they're just giving a little bit more time, just so the examiner can do the clean down and all of these things that need to be factored in, additional things that need to be factored in for everyone's safety. So yes, but yes, the test as it stands doesn't change in any way. So that the content of the test and the duration of the test, that's still the same.
Another one we've got here is about the ADI 21S, which is where the ADI trainers are supervising PDIs in the car. I've written to the DVSA this morning in order to ask for guidance on what they want to do about that, because of having 3 people in the vehicle at the same time. Have not yet had a response yet, and I'll be honest with you, I don't expect a response to that today. But what we'll do is, when we send out, it won't be the update today unless we get a response today. But what we'll do is, in the updates we send out next week, we'll have that in there, because that's a question that's been asked quite a bit, especially as the PDIs are now able to get out like the ADIs can. Those who are on the supervision have only got a certain amount of time on their badges, and they have to get the supervision done. So it's got to be a question asked, and I have put the question, and I'm waiting for a response on that. So that's from Sedana. Andy Coward, has there been any decisions regarding the key worker test list yet? Andy, I'm not really sure what your question's asking, to be honest, unless you have any idea what that is, Olivia.
I'm not entirely sure what that question is. Yeah, we're just let's have a little look. I'm not entirely sure what that question is, Andy. If you just perhaps rephrase that slightly, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Whilst we're here, we're just going to continue going through some of your questions. But what we thought we would do, as last week you quite enjoyed the little polls that we did, so we thought we would have a go at a couple more today. So on the left hand side, where you've got your questions and your chat, you've got another little box called polls. And so I thought, there you go, you should have a question in front of you now. Have you started training again? So there we go, most of you are finding that. Okay, so there's the result of that. So it's a bit more even than the result last week. It was definitely more in favour of the no's last week. I know some people are still, you can still see people are still responding to that.
But you've got to consider here, Olivia, that some of these people are from Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland. So we've got 1 or 2 people who can't go back to work yet. No,
of course. So that was just, as I say, this is nothing official. This is just a little bit of a, an idea, just to, see how people are, what people are up to. So yeah, there could be. That's a very good point. Well presented, Howard. Okay, thank you for that, guys. So we've got do we have another one yet? There we go. Right, here's another one. This is an interesting one. This is a thinker. So if you haven't returned to training yet, what's been the main reason? Okay. So again, interesting. I'm going to share that result. So that's what we've got. I know there's some people still considering their options. So waiting for the threat of COVID to ease a bit further, and other. So those of you who have put other, be interesting to find out, a bit more about those reasons, because obviously that one's got the most votes, with over half of you on there. So that'd be interesting to know a little bit more about that one. what those reasons are. Okay, so thank you for that. Do we have another one? Yeah, we do. Let's have another go at another one now. One more poll. So if you have returned to training, what's been the biggest challenge? We understand that probably all of it, most of it, some of it, but the biggest challenge that you've had to deal with. Okay, so results are still coming in on that one. I'm just going to share that with you so you can see. People are still casting their votes. So at the moment, neck and neck, we've got managing the diary with extra processes to follow and getting the car cleaned. Shortly followed by enforcing the new processes and protocols with the students. Understandable. Cleaning the car's just edged out in front now. So yeah, so absolutely. It's just making sure that, you know, you've got enough supplies. I mean, you've probably got bootfuls of stuff, all your PPE and all your bin bags and everything. And it's just making sure that you've got enough for that day and you've got enough to last you for that day, and you've got enough for the next few days as well, making sure you've got enough of that. So okay, I hope that was useful, just so you know we can just get an idea. That was all. Anything to add on that one, Howard?
No, it's quite a thing. Again, we've got one or two that have probably got on the other is because they can't. They're from other parts of the devolved nations where they can't work yet, so they won't have yet had a chance to be able to take part in anything to be able to be of use for them on the poll. Just when I was trying to turn this phone off, I've got the company phone going off in the background. Right. Questions. More questions here if you want them.
Absolutely.
Right. Are weekend tests being considered to assist in the clearing of the backlog? We haven't been told yet, but I can remember from about 13 years ago where we had a situation from all the strikes that took place that the DVSA held Saturday and had Sunday tests in locations where there was a big enough road system, busy enough road system on a Sunday to do 3 or 4 tests on a Sunday. They're not going to do it in the outlying areas where it's like a little country lane. They're only in the areas of the country where it is possible to do it. It's quite likely that will happen. There are 200,000 tests outstanding at the moment, which have to be covered. The DVSA are back in force. I think they're back in force to do the key worker test was on Monday, and they're clearing those through now. And I believe, I can't what date it is for the others now, Liv, is it next Monday, isn't it? 13th, is it? That they all come back in force now for clearing backlogs. And then that's from
22nd off the top of my head.
Yeah, so 13th is when the emails. So on Monday, 13th, the emails will go out on the on-hold tests to invite the students to rebook. So you need to tell your students now that they are on their way, those emails. And really and truly, you need those students to contact you to let you know when they've got those emails, because you don't want them necessarily booking the first test they can get if you know they're not ready for that test. So there is, when they get given the email, they are giving a 6-week time window, which get that test booked into. So if you can say within that 6-week time slot where you think they need to be. The next tranche of people on hold will start booking the week after, from the 22nd. So, sorry, beg your pardon, from the 27th. So, or 27th, 28th, 29th, from the 29th. So, as far as we're aware, the DVSA are doing them in week-long slots. So, your students have a week to book the test into a 6-week time slot window. Otherwise, they'll be overtaken by others. So, really, you need to advise them when they're going to be ready, when you think they'll be ready for their test, and book appropriately. Otherwise, you're going to have them going up as a waste of time. And it's going to be difficult for you to move tests around while the DVSA are trying to clear the backlog. because there'll be very few slots available as spares to use. And also trying to get through to them is going to be a problem as well with the workload they've got. So trying to move them around, unless you're a trainer booker and you've booked the test and you can move it within the trainer booker system, that might be a bit different. But if you're not on the trainer booker system, then it could be a bit harder for you to do it. So you need to bear that in mind.
Just going back to the 7 tests. Oh no, that's 7 tests a day. So yeah, we know the 5. Just so that obviously that's to help DVSA with their
because the time slots are longer, so they've had to reduce the amount of tests they're doing a day.
Distancing measures, and so because they've had different staggered working patterns for their examiners delivering the 5 tests with the extended time to allow for fit-in of PPE and hygiene and things like that. So yeah. What else?
Right, Bobby, your question: who will provide the cleaning products for the toilets? You'll be glad to know the DVSA will. That's quite clear. They will be providing all the materials to clean the toilets. Another one: has anybody been using contactless thermometers to take a pupil's temperature, and how has that gone? Well, that's not a question for us because we don't know, Paul. That should be in the chat box. Put that in the chat box and get others to answer that one if you will. Jane, will the manoeuvres still be done first and test terminated if failed? No.
We know for B plus E and things like that, then the sort of coupling and uncoupling will be done first. So if that that didn't happen, if the candidate wasn't successful, then obviously the test wouldn't then go ahead. That makes some sense, because then the examiner's not got to get in a car and share. But for L tests, practical tests, I've not heard any different. I've heard the test will be conducted pretty much the same. So I've not heard of that. I mean, obviously, if the candidate makes a serious fault or a dangerous fault or acquires 16 driving faults, the examiner is going to politely direct them back, just reroute them back to the test centre and give them a result. Obviously, if they failed, there's no point staying in the same car for as longer than they need to be. So that's what will happen on that one.
Right, Pauline is saying, looking at the main DVSA test booking site, that her main test centre is still showing the same test times as before. When the people on hold, or people call them cancel tests, when the on hold tests are invited to rebook, these test times will change. They will definitely change because more time's being allowed for them and the tests are being more staggered. So as we understand it, where you may have had 5 examiners come out of the office door all at the same time, that won't happen. There'll be less of them, again, because of the movements in the car park and the fact that there'll be a lot of people waiting in the car park because the waiting rooms cannot be used. There has to be less vehicle movements. So the students who are booking these tests on these on-hold tests might give you a strange time that you're not used to, and you'll sort of question it. Don't question it. It's because the test times are changing. Okay.
Yeah, I just Vandish put a point about really anxious about the whole face covering thing. She's using the disposable surgical masks. She said, I was surprised how well I coped. All 4 windows were down and breathing was okay. But obviously when it's raining, that'll be it's a little bit harder to stop getting the car and getting you soaking wet. I understand. I suppose the windows have to come up at some way. I mean, Howard, there's things like people can put I've seen people put in things across, like those little shields across the driver's window or the 2 front passenger windows, just to sort of, I think they're there primarily to stop buffeting and things like that. I've seen some drivers have them, but that could be classed as you'd need to tell the insurance company, I believe.
Yeah, adaptation to the vehicle.
Because that can be even like a roof rack or carrying bikes. If you're going to do a staycation holiday, things like that, it can affect the insurance. So, if you are going to do anything like that, just make sure that you get that checked out first with the insurance.
Right. Gareth from Northern Ireland, do the DIA not communicate with the DVA to support and get updates for Northern Ireland members? Yes, we do, but we never get an answer. We try to. Carly's blue in the face trying to get response from DVA in Northern Ireland, and we do not get response from them. She's done at least 4, I know definitely of 4 requests for information, and no one has even answered. So we try and go through the DVSA and ask them instead, but they will not comment on the actions of the DVA. They're too, although they both work for the same Department of Transport, they do not divulge the DVA's dealings. That's why we can't give you an answer, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Now, we also have Peter, who's brought a very good thing out about the trainer booking situation. Article saying AGIs mustn't book tests for our pupils, and is going to be rigorously policed by the DVSA. Will the DVSA be stopping the practice of large companies booking up block booking of tests? Yes, that's not going to be available. All of the trainer booker stuff is being limited to how many tests can be booked. And to be honest with you, I don't know what that number is, but you used to be able to book pretty much as many as you want. So I know you used to be able to book up at least 10 tests in one go. That's no longer the case. It has been stifled. I've got no idea what the number is, but I know it has been significantly reduced to stop people taking slots that can't necessarily be filled. Andy, will the key worker test still be amalgamated with those in the on hold list, or will it be kept separate? The DVSA have got to work the places as efficiently as they can. So you may find that some of the key worker tests will towards the end of the key worker stuff be involved with the on-hold test. But the DVSA, since this Monday gone, which was the 6th, have been pushing the boat out to get the key worker test done this week and next week, so that they clear the slots if they can for the on-hold test. That releases the examiners. So there's a lot of them being done this week already. And as I understand it, the number of key worker tests is not that big. It's not big at all. So we should find that the examiners will be available for the on-holds.
Tasneem's come up with a question. You know, she said if the instructors have gone back to work, how's it been getting out of the car in between the lesson to talk on debrief? So I think what you mean is like during the lesson, you know, where you'd normally pull over and you'd have a couple of minutes to discuss something. I think what you're meaning is just to get out the car and do that on the side of the road distance. So that, I think that was the question. So yeah, if anyone's got any comments about how that's been going and how you're managing that and how well received that's been by your pupils. Any feedback from your pupils as to how it's all going? That'd be an interesting one as well, if anyone's got anything to share on that too.
Tasneem, you've gone and put a chat in the question box. Could you put that in the chat box, please? Because it's not a question to us at all. Rob feels that we're rushed back too early and wasn't expecting to go back to August. He's going to be going back on a limited diary as from the 13th.
So James, you said about the self-employed having to increase costs for cleaning materials. So I mean, that's something which everyone should factor in anyway. Hopefully during the lockdown when you couldn't work, it was a good time to reflect on your business as a whole and lots of areas of the business as well. And just looking at the pricing and what you charge, and is it reflective and appropriate for what your product and service is? You might find that you're not charging enough. I know we still see some driving lessons, very low prices, I would say, so do consider, first of all, get a bit of paper, get a spreadsheet, however you want to do it, do your sums, all your outgoings first of all, per week or per month, per year, however you want to do it. Scoop them all up, everything that you're paying for in order to go to work to run your business. So car, phone, membership fees, ADI certificate, all of those things. What are you paying for? All the fuel, all the insurances. So, and then after that, what then, how much of that, if you're going to put that down to how many hours that you're doing roughly a week, what is your, what are your costs? Then think about, look at what you're charging, look at what others are charging, compare your products and services. Well, it's a similar product, but your services to other people in your area. Think about what they're doing, and try and be as competitive as you can. Don't be too worried about trying to just undercut and going with that model all the time. Sometimes you need to think, okay, well, I might offer this as well to my pupils. You might offer a service where you talk to the parents a bit more. I know that's a sometimes a hard one to do, but something. Well, you might have done during the lockdown. You might have got some little web chats or webinars yourself, little Zoom meetings with parents and pupils, as we'd suggested. Perhaps you could have a little go at. So you might continue that. So you might start offering a very small charge for that, or incorporating that into your lesson fees, but saying, hey, I'll do this as an addition. So, there's lots of ways that you can think about this and how you can, wrap up your products and your services in a different way. But do think about that pricing, and you will need to factor in additions for your PPE. That's, you can't just run that on thin air. So you need to. In terms of the second size grant, I don't think we've had any further update on that. I know we were looking into that, and but I don't think I haven't heard anything about that as yet. So, but as soon as we do, then we'll let you know. But as you've probably heard Carly say in previous webinars, that if your business is affected, I think the date was 14th of July. If it's still affected on or around there, then apply for that second grant. And the advice has been from us that you should, because your business is still affected. And the example that Carly gave was the year-to-date figures this time last year to now. Look at your income for this time last year and look at it now. So you if you're still getting those effects from it, which I don't see how you won't be, then apply for it. Apply for all the help you can get.
Jenny in Wales has said that we'll receive the on-hold rebook test emails in Wales on Monday. No, Jenny, I don't think you will, because there's nothing taking place in Wales apart from key worker tests. And you're at a different security level in Wales than what England is at. So the situation there is, I think you're going to be slightly behind with all of this. The DVSA are issuing out for England, and I believe that Wales is not included in that. And I don't think Scotland is either. Paul, do we know what percentage of DEs have returned to work? I'm afraid we don't. We do know that some can't return because they are shielding families still, but the vast majority are back. That's what we've been told. We haven't got a percentage on it. Kevin, can you please clarify the first emails to go out? The first emails were going out on Monday, which is the 13th, to tell people that they are able to rebook. The date of the 27th is the start of the first tests. So 13th is when the emails go, which is Monday, to tell the clients that they are able to book. And is it 27th or 22nd, the first test go out, Olivia? 22nd, sorry, 22nd is the date that the tests start. So 13th is the Monday, the emails are being sent out from the DVSA. Yeah,
so week commencing the 13th of July.
It's not literally Monday, it's week commencing the 13th they go out. So they may go on Monday, they might go on Tuesday, but during next week, they will be going out. So you'll get your students, hopefully you'll tell your students you'll be getting an email fairly soon, and especially look in their junk folders for it. And then
they will be really for the batches of emails that go out to the candidates. So, like the first batch, if you like. So that the ones that have been waiting longest, etc.
Yeah, first tranche. And then the next tranche will be done about 7 days later. So they're doing them in tranches that we think are a week at a time. And there's probably about 6 tranches altogether. So the tranches are likely to be fortnightly blocks. So when we came in the lockdown in March the 20th, the last 2 weeks of March, will be the first tranche, and then you'll have the first 2 weeks of April, second tranche, etc. And they are staggering them, and we think they're staggering them by the week. So that's where you've got confused there, Kevin. This Monday, week commencing this next week, is the first tranche, which will be the March people will get their emails to say you are allowed to rebook, to keep them in the front of the queue. Then on the following week is likely to be the next tranche, which will be the beginning of April. So they'll work like that, work their way through the tranches in different times in order for people not to lose their place in the queues effectively. Okay, so I hope that clears that up. Where are we now? Is a disposable seat cover for clients to use a good idea? Yes, they can be, providing they are disposable. You can use them. There's no reason why you can't. The DVSA will actually be using them themselves, or might be. The examiners have got a choice of using one if they want to at the test. So yes, disposable seat covers are not a problem at all, but disposable between each student. You can't leave it on all day. So you need to make sure that between each student they are thrown away.
Between each driver, each person sat in that seat.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
So examiners may bring their own disposable seat covering along to put on the passenger seat of your car, so that they might choose to do that of their own accord.
Okay, Andy's come up with a question about steaming up glasses and said, any advice to stop glasses steaming up when wearing a mask? Yes, there is, and it's a very cheap one too. If you wash the glasses on both sides of the lens with neat washing up liquid and actually wipe that off with no water and with a dry cloth until it is absolutely dry, you will find that it will take a long time for those glasses to steam up. And that's been a tried and tested thing for many years, actually. So you can get proprietary stuff. Used to be something called Crystal Blue you could get, which you sprayed on your lenses and it stopped them steaming up. But actually, all it was soap liquid. So if you put some neat soap liquid on both sides of lenses, only a tiny bit, just a tiniest bit, rub it all over the lens, and then wipe it with a tea towel on both sides, you'll find that the glasses, they take them a lot longer to start steaming up. Okay, that's the advice we give there. Okay. Bobby's just confirmed that as well. Okay. What have we got here?
I don't think I think Vanda, she's come up with another point. As I understand it, I don't believe the DVSA are going to say, okay, you failed. They will, if you've sort of hit your limit on your faults, or you've got the serious or the dangerous one, they will just be directed back, and then the result given once back at the test centre.
Right, okay. Peter, you've got a very good question here. Thanks for the reassurance about test bookings. So if we see companies saying test slots on the internet at a premium, how should we proceed? Should we raise it with the DIA or NASP? Raise it with the DVSA straight away, because they are the ones that are trying to stop it from happening. They are the ones supposed to be policing this and stopping it. You can tell us, yes, but the first instance, raise it with the DVSA, because they actually have issued the statement that we are limited to the amount of bookings we can do, and they are going to be limiting how many test bookings can be done at a time. So these people should not be able to get bulk bookings and be able to sell them at a premium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do let NASP know as well, being a sort of a tier one stakeholder with the DVSA. Do let us know as well. As I say, there is a link going about at the moment. So if you can get, put any questions like that on that link, on that form, so we can let DVSA know as well. That will be good. So Rob's been looking through the risk assessment, Howard, from the toolkit. Wanted to know how he falls into the risk assessment as an instructor. His eldest daughter lives with them. Is 29 weeks pregnant, and a youngest daughter is asthmatic. Wife's a teacher.
Okay,
that's a interesting one you raise there, Rob. So.
Right, the situation with this is, Rob, is that you have to start thinking on two different fronts. First of all, you need to be able to protect your household from anybody who is going to get into your car. And that is why you phone the students up to find out the history of their health and what they've been doing. And if they are in a situation where they have also shielding people, or they are in a COVID environment, like they are frontline nursing staff in a COVID environment, or they are anybody that comes into contact, nursing homes with people that are COVID, anything that they are at risk, then you put the two risks together and you would have to not train them. You'd have to give them to somebody else who is at a better system, because you're effectively shielding, aren't you, in some respects, because you've got a pregnancy there with somebody and your daughter's asthmatic. So effectively you're shielding, and therefore if you are shielding, you can only take the low risk pupils into your vehicle. That's how you got to see it. It's like bursting a bubble on each side. Is your bubble going to get burst by the people getting into your vehicle, or is it possible that you could burst their bubble if they are shielding people as well? That's how you look at the risk. So you have to take up the pros and cons on both sides of the equation to see. So you might get a student who comes to you and says, no, I live on my own. I want to learn to drive because I've just taken a new job. I work in a factory. I'm in my own area. There's only 6 of us working it, so we've got plenty of space. There's no risk, blah, blah, blah. You could take that person off because they are no risk to you. And obviously, providing they haven't come into contact with people who've been abroad, you should be isolating, blah, blah, blah. But the sort of person who is in a wide space at work, or who works outside, who is not at a risk of a COVID environment, they'd be the people you'd be looking to take on. Anybody who's shielding, you'd need to be a little bit careful with. But if you look at the examples in the risk assessment from the toolkit, it does sort of spell out what sort of things, the pros and cons of the household that's going to be getting into your car and your household. So how you actually affect each other is how the risk rating is worked out. That's how you would do it.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone is listening from the Leicester area as well. I mean, I don't know if you saw the DVSA's advice for dealing with local lockdowns in terms of continuing training and testing. So, so I know some of you will have seen what NASP put out last week on this. But so the DVSA services in areas with local lockdowns, so certainly Leicester, have reverted to critical workers only, and driving or riding instruction is limited to critical workers preparing for a test until after the restrictions are lifted. And we're told DVSA have said that they're going to assess local lockdowns on a case-by-case basis. So they'll just speak to the local government, or the local government, the local councils and the local authorities there, and just assess each one case by case. But that's it. So there might also be some people on there that couldn't go back to work because of that as well. When we did our polls, just thinking that too.
Got a question from Diane.
Yes.
Yeah. Will theory test certificates be extended to cover the period to prevent those who were test ready from having to retake their theory test again?
Yes.
We don't have a problem with that one.
Yeah. So I mean, as you probably know, the 2-year validity of the theory test certificate is set in legislation. So the candidates, it's done so the candidates' theoretical knowledge remains current, and their ability to spot developing hazards on a hazard perception test remains current, and they don't, they're not posed as being out of date with that side of it. So to extend that validity would require legislative, one of those as well, legal changes. And so it's something which has been asked many times by many ADIs, and we have fed that back as DIN, as NASP, to DVSA, and it's well under their nose. But at the moment, no, there's been no further update on that. Should there be an update, then, or as soon if there is an update, of course we'll let you know, and DVSA would send out one of their update emails as well. But at the moment, afraid not is the answer. And but we are, it's constantly on the table for discussion with them. So that's where we are with that at the moment. So sorry, there's no further updates for that at this time. With the theory test, people have asked, will there be tranched to go back, like practical tests. I mean, obviously, no, the booking system was open for anyone to book a test from last Saturday, which was the 4th of July.
Well, it's not only that, the theory test system, they were cancelled. They weren't put on hold. So the people, I think, got their money back, or the money was on hold for them to rebook. But it's not a queuing system for the theory. Most of those tests were actually cancelled, and most of them were refunded, and therefore there's no queue.
Yeah. So the theory test centres in England did resume service on the 4th of July. Alongside the ADR Part 1 and the Enhanced Rider Scheme Trainer tests. The DVSA are aware that there may be a small number of appointments would need to be rescheduled due to accommodate social distancing. Okay.
Can you answer the question for Bobby Hicks, Olivia, because I can't answer that one for you. Can you see it there?
I'm
at the very bottom.
Having a little look. Hold on.
Right at the very bottom.
Oh, okay. So that's a DI membership. Oh, I like that. Super membership. Sounds really good. We don't have super membership. We have plus. Okay, Bobby, if we could get in contact with you afterwards, that'd be great, because obviously that's not a question for this webinar, but it's an excellent question. If we're able to give you a quick call afterwards, then that will be, if you're available just after the webinar, just drop a quick yes or no into the box, and then I can we can arrange them to give you a call. I can give you a call. Okay. Any further questions at the moment?
No, but thank you, Peter, for your question, for your comment. I think Howard's is a major shareholder in Procter and Gamble with his washing up theory, liquid theory. So, thank you for that one.
Howard does in his own life. Oh, you don't want to know.
Yeah, the wacky world of Howard is what it is. Yeah.
So Simon's asked about the standard check situation. So if you had one booked during lockdown, so yeah, obviously that they didn't go ahead. We know that. And again, at the moment, we're still awaiting updates from DVSA on standard checks and Part 3s and things like that. I think we've got another Zoom with them, as I say, next week. So we're gathering questions. That question will be asked again to see if there is any further updates at that time. So that video will be available probably, I think we're looking for the day after. So that'll be next Thursday. So and we'll hopefully supply a list of the questions again, so you can download those off the email again. So at the moment, we don't have an update to share with you, but I'm, imagine. I mean, obviously they are aware of it. Of course they are, and we'll get that update soon as. Thanks, Bobby. You've just come back. Yes, no problem. Yep. So I'll give you a quick bell just after the webinar, and then we can go from there. Okay. So, any other questions? Any other bits and pieces at the moment? Let's have a little look. Appear to be any. So. Theory test questions. Someone's recommended the Rain-X anti-fog has worked well to stop glasses from steaming up. Okay, interesting. Rain-X, that's the product that you can put on your glass on the outside of your windows, and it kind of helps the water to bead off the glass better.
Oh, that's what they call wet water.
Yeah. I've used it on my own car in the past. And it just helps to disperse the water. It sort of helps it to bead off, and not sort of, if it's more like a thick, like a heavy mist, rather than having to sort of look through a fog. It helps that with that type of thing. So I've not used it on glasses, but okay, all right. So any other questions? Just having a little look through. So I'll just having a quick look in the chats as well. So
I'm doing that too at the moment too.
Students that they will have to wear a mask on lessons. So yeah, I mean, and someone was saying, charging a few pence for a mask, and the same with gloves. I mean, that's fine. I mean, every ADR business, if you run it as you see fit, you can incorporate the additional PPE costs onto the lesson price, or you could do something like that where you're just charging a few pence per lesson if they can't supply their own. As long as you make that clear, as long as it's clear and transparent and and fair, and agreed with pupils beforehand, then you can't go too far wrong with that. So that's good. Okay. I mean, in terms of masks, I mean, that's one that we've been asked a lot, Howard, isn't it, about a mask
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
on the lesson. No, they're not. Not on the lesson. But obviously it's down to each business, each ADI to determine what set out the rules for how they're going to conduct the lessons. I mean, they most people will strongly advise that a face covering of some description, whether it's one of the bought disposable or reusable, washable, or even there has been some information on gov.uk about making your own from a t-shirt if you felt that way inclined, and things like that. So there have been.
I cut in, if I may, because there's been information that was sent out on Tuesday from King's College Hospital, who is one of the biggest researchers for the government. And the information they sent out was that the airborne droplets from COVID actually hang in the air longer than was first thought. Now, when we started doing the back to work for the key workers, everyone was told about masks, etc., masks should be on, etc., because they're at a higher level. That might actually now be more prevalent in your normal driving lessons if you can, because the airborne droplets will stay in your vehicle for longer than they did. And therefore, we were advised to tell everybody from some government guidance sent out through gov.uk from Public Health England that if people were in close proximities this is when they're at the 2 meter thing, or we're 1 meter plus now, when they're at 2 meters, that they should not face each other to talk. They should face the front, and that was with the mask on at 2 meters. We're now 1 meter plus. The droplets have now been proven here in the UK, and I can't remember whether it was Sweden or whether it was Germany, but they did some tests in supermarkets, and they found that the airdrops were hanging higher in the air over the tops of shelves and were falling down a lot later than they first thought. So your car being in enclosed space, you might need to consider wearing masks on lessons as well. The DVSA haven't brought this information out, but it was put out by the news, BBC News, on Tuesday as being quite a serious new consideration of the COVID. And although we've got masks being used on public transport and in airports, it was actually commented on that BBC News that there might be some considerations that we may have to start wearing them anytime we go outside. Now, if we can have to wear them outside and you're entitled confines in your vehicles, it's pretty damn certain you're going to have to start wearing them inside the vehicle all the time. So I think you're going to have to be ready to be ready for it. That it's getting, they're finding more and more about the virus now and about the pathogens and the what they call the reservoirs, which makes the thing so volatile and dangerous. Therefore, it's now really a strong consideration to think about wearing masks in the vehicle.
I mean, there's been many things in there, and Peter just made a comment in the chats to say, when driving away after a lesson, if it's possible, open all the windows for a few minutes to blast it through.
Yeah.
Share. I don't build the windows and the boot and let it all blow out. But I'd spend a couple of minutes if it was me, just to kind of just do that. I think absolutely. And Sharon also says for glasses wearers, she's just made a comment. Any anti-fog sprays that are designed for swimming goggles and diving masks. So yeah, I've heard of things like that as well. That swimmers put on the inside of their goggles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not tried or tested any of them, and but they're great tips and advice you're all sharing. And thank you so much, everyone, for all that you're doing, helping other people with solutions. This is one of the points of doing these like sessions, just so we can say, okay, I've got this problem over here. Let's see what we can all do and jump on that. So this is what you're doing, and it's great. The only thing I don't know is because I'm always a little bit reluctant with these things because I haven't personally tried or tested it, so I can't make a comment. But if you're saying that this is actually working, it's good, and it's also not harming the glasses or anything like that. You can get glasses with the anti-glare and all these coatings that you can pay to have on them, as long as it doesn't sort of start to break any of that down. That's the only other thing I would think of, but I might be thinking too deep because I can do that. I've been accused of overthinking stuff before, but just bear it in mind. I mean, maybe a quick call to your local opticians or something to say, look, what do you recommend? Is there anything recommended particularly to stop glasses from steaming up that don't interfere with the integrity of the lens or something? So just a thought.
But Maggie's asked a question about how quick have we got to get out of the test centre car park after the test? Are we going to have time to wipe down? Are you aware of what that situation might be, Olivia?
I mean, I think as soon as reasonably you can, you are going to need to wipe the car down, obviously, before you get back into it. That's fair enough, because that's in everybody's interest. I haven't got a time in minutes to give you, but just don't hang about. Get the car wiped down, a couple of minutes, and then off you go. I don't see absolutely why you can't do that, because it's in the health and safety interests of everybody, and DVS are on board with that. So yeah, that's fine. And then obviously Starsky and Hutch it out the car park. Drive it like
what you could do to save time is if you do not allow the student to drive out the car park after passing their test, because if you wipe the vehicle down there and you get in behind it, when you've dropped them off, you're only having to wipe down the passenger side until you get to the next client and then do the next wipe down. So you're actually saving yourself a whole wipe down if you were to drive away from the test centre with the student. I always used to anyway, because they're too elated if they pass. But some ADIs, I've heard them give them a sweetener and say, if you pass your test, you can drive home, which I think you may, in this instance, have to avoid doing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you've got to. It's a balance. It's a balance of functioning, running your business, keeping the being aware of allowing the examiners to keep to time and all the rest of it, with the different times that they're going to have. We're not going to be like back a 10:41 test and the next one like we used to have. We're going to have all the time is going to be different, with probably fewer people, but more little and often. That's what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way. So you just need to make sure that you balance your health and safety and that of your pupils with everything else that's going on around you.
Pauline has just reminded me. Thank you, Pauline. You're an absolute star. Howard, you answered an email from me about the test and trace referred to on taking candidates to test and it being dealt with during booking. So I just want to reiterate what's going on here. When the emails come out to invite the booking of tests, the students will be asked to do test and trace. And that is in the booking process. It's not an app that needs to be downloaded or any registration to anything. When they go through the booking process, they'll go through the normal process, and part of it will include test and trace.
What it is, it's in the DVSA's privacy policy.
Yeah.
Where it
is.
They put a new section in there under section 4, and it's 4.1, and it's in there in DVSA's privacy policy. So it will be in there. So if and this is again why there's no sort of opt out or anything like that, or it, and again it's for the good of everyone there. So if the examiner comes down with symptoms days after test, then they can contact the pupil, and this is another really important reason why we keep just doing a gentle reminder to everyone to leave the ADI certificate in the car on test. It should be in there anyway, but especially important leave it in there, because then they can get your ADI number and then you can contact you as well. And wouldn't you want to know if the examiner that's just been in your car with your pupils has now come down with symptoms? Because I'd want to know as soon as I possibly could, and to take action, and we have to. So that's what they'll do.
Well, there's something else to add on to that as well, is that I believe that during the booking process, if they don't fill that in, the booking process cannot be completed. So it's almost, they've got to do it. Now, what will happen is when the examiner comes out to the car, they will ask the question, have you done this, just for confirmation? They have got to ask that question at the beginning of the test, is have they got not signed up or registered, I've forgotten the word it was going to be, but I read it. Have they completed the test and trace? How did they word it? Olivia, can you remember what it was? It was in the SOP we got. Have they completed the test and trace profile? That's what it was. Have they completed the test and trace profile as part of the application? And of course they would have done, but the examiner has to ask that question. If the student is not aware if they've done it or not, there could be a bit of a problem with the test going out. So make sure they are aware of what they are doing.
Howard, that was one of the first. There was a correction to that SOP. So they were going to ask the candidate, can you confirm they're going to take place? But there was a correction to that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So if a driving test candidate or driving examiner develops symptoms in the days after a test, the NHS Test and Trace Service will use data DVSA collects from the candidate to contact them. DVSA have updated a privacy policy notice published on gov.uk to explain how we will manage personal data. So that was that. They're not going to say anything there. It's all done on the booking. So it's in the privacy policy, and we imagine that's at the time of booking the test. They're entering into that agreement. So have a little look at DVSA's privacy policy on there. And it was in that the updated standard operating procedures that were sent out.
Now, the thing is, we're not sure what happens with the trainer-booker situation, because if the trainer is booking the test, which is what Simon has brought up, we're not really aware of how the candidate gets involved with the privacy policy and the 4.1. We're going to have to ask that question, Simon. That's something that's completely eluded me, to be honest with you. We'll have to ask. In
that link, so we can put it to DVSA's now. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I know the cut-off we did say midday today, but we can take a few more this afternoon. Because we've got to go through them all and take out the duplicates and all of, and get a revised set of questions to DVSA. So just bear in mind that process needs to be gone through as well with the timing of your questions. So the sooner that you can get them in, the better it will be for us as well. So thank you. Okie dokie. What else? I think we've covered most things there.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've covered the questions. I've just had a little look through the chats, and you're having a chat amongst yourselves on there, which is great as well. So,
there's a lot of learning takes place there. Actually, we were doing a thing on CPD last week, and a lot of CPD takes place by you guys chatting to each other.
Yeah.
As long as it's all factually evident, of course.
Yeah. I know that there's a discussion going on between some ADIs on the chat at the moment about changing face masks. If you step out the car during the lesson and you're both wearing them, then you're going to take them off, obviously, to when you're at your 2 meter distance, because it's, let's face it, they're not the most pleasant things in the world to wear. And then it's the some of you are asking the question, do you replace that mask with a fresh one after a couple of minutes outside the car to get back in? That's a good question. Obviously, I mean, we know that these masks, if they're the disposable type or they're the washable ones or whatever, if they're disposable, they are washed regularly or disposed of regularly. Drilling down to that level of detail, I mean, Howard, have you got any insights on that?
No, I don't. Actually, I just question this. I don't know the answer to that one, I'm afraid. I really don't.
I mean, that would be, I don't know if NHS have got any information on their website about, the the duration of wearing them.
I understand actually something that did come out a little while ago on the gov.uk was that once the mask was handled and the hand was anywhere near the eyes, the mask had to be changed.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was the details that came out in the sanitizing a environment and sanitizing a workplace in a non-COVID environment. I think it's in that document that came out saying that whilst you're doing all your cleaning down, etc., if you touch your mask with your hands, then the mask should be changed. I'm sure it said that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And your hands and everything needs to be sanitized again. Because
that's right.
Droplets in your breathing, isn't it? I'm just having a little look on NHS website as we speak, actually, just seeing if I can find. Okay, so on NHS, this is Oxford University, I think, website. It says, how long do I have to wear each mask? I mean, I think this is for people in like more of a medical setting, but maybe we could get some learning from it. How long do I have to wear each mask for before changing to a new one? The answer on here is there's no set time nor recommended number of masks you should use each day. Depends on what you are doing. However, if your mask gets dirty, wet or damaged, or you touch the inside of it, I would go as far as to say if you touch the outside of it as well, because that will, as we know, that it doesn't stop everything coming through it, but it can help. Then you should change to a new one following the steps above. Obviously take it off, dispose, sanitize. When you take it off to eat or drink, you should dispose of the old mask, wash or sanitize your hands, replace it with a new one after you've finished eating. So that's something which is staff working for the NHS. That's just a website I've just come across, Oxford University Hospital. So that's advice that they've been given. So I think with that and with a good dollop of our own common sense, it would be a case of, if it's an hour's lesson and you removed it by the ears, you didn't maybe touch the face mask, and if it was just for a moment or two outside the car, perhaps you could put it back on, maybe just for, belt and braces, sanitize your hands because you've touched something, touched your head, touched something, and then carry on wearing it for the rest of the hour, perhaps. But some of you might want to change it a bit more often than that, every time you stop. It's a tricky one to try and gauge, isn't it? I think it just depends on, as you say, what you're doing. If people wants to get out the car, have some water, both of you do, and you're standing outside for 3 or 4 minutes, something like that, to discuss something, having a drink, maybe then, because then you're touching the mask, you're touching your face, you're touching your water, and then maybe a fresh one. Sanitize your hands just to be absolutely sure. Always go over the top, I would say, if you're unsure.
Andy's just put something in the chat, so thank you, Andy. I actually, I've just got this myself, actually. The Scottish Government announced yesterday that theory tests and motorcycle training will restart on Wednesday, the 22nd of July 2020 in Scotland, and the DVSA will be contacting candidates who have theory tests booked in Scotland before the 22nd of July to reschedule these. So that's there's a bit of movement there in Scotland at last. But it doesn't say you guys can go back training, which is what we actually want to hear. So, but at least if motorcycle training is allowed to go, and I know they are a little bit more cut off from the being more isolated in their training, that's a start. So things must be moving forward for you somewhere. That's all I can say, I'm afraid, is we have no other information on anything other than what Andy's just put in front of me now. I did actually get that, I think, just before I came on the webinar. I didn't get a chance to read it, Andy, so thanks very much for bringing that to my attention.
Okay. We've gone through the questions and we've looked at the chats. I don't think there's anything else outstanding. And we've just gone over the hour. So what I'd just like to maybe, just start wrapping up the session, just by saying to everybody, thank you very much for coming along today. Let's just have a little look on that. You popped that on there, didn't you?
Yeah, really and truly, what still needs to be considered. Well, you've pretty much discovered this. You were saying about you've been out. A lot of you have been out and worked for the week, and those of you who haven't have heard the comments of the ones that have, and the things in the chat box that's been going on, I've been watching as well. So things that need to be considered, really, the main one is this is not going to end very quickly. We've got different parts of the country in different states of security on what they can do. Northern Ireland is probably, Wales is probably the furthest behind, but then Northern Ireland are struggling for information. Wales is getting nothing at all, and Scotland is just starting to unlock. England's ahead of the others, but whatever situation you're in, when you all do get back to work, it is going to be a changed environment. The roads will be the same, and the way you train, the actual syllabus will be the same. Bear in mind soon, please, that the theory test has got some additions being added to it at some time or other. Look out for when they take place. There's going to be some, is it case studies is being put on the end of...
At the moment, it's just to help the questions be more accessible. So
right, yes, yeah, definitely was. Yeah.
On the 14th of April this year, had we not had all the pandemic, the theory test was going, those case study written questions were going to be replaced by some videos. There's no different content to it. It was just the case studies. Instead of reading it, you're going to watch a video.
Yeah, it was more inclusive. That's what it was.
Again, it's not been decided as yet as to when that's going to relaunch or going to launch, because it never did. So nothing's changed at the moment as far as that's concerned. I mean, the only thing you can say, Howard, I can say, is driving around my local area. I don't live far from Sutton. Those of you know the area in South London. Driving around there, I've seen some. Different road markings. I've seen down the one-way system, and I've seen some areas where instead of a two-lane one-way system down the back, those of you know where the cinema is, they've coned one of the two lanes off all the way down and sort of said COVID-19, keep 2 meters apart, things like that. So my only, it's slightly like what's that initially, but I think it's to just help people, the pedestrians, kind of walk a bit further apart. And also, when I went for a walk last night, yesterday evening to go up to a local shop, when you're walking around and the pavement's a bit narrow, you do naturally sort of think, okay, I'll keep my distance, or you walk into the road, obviously you'll have a look first, a good idea, or the other person will generally do the same. So it's things like the little things like that you've probably all noted and taken on board, and you're doing, those of you who've gone back, where you might see some more people in the road because of that. They will take to the roads, they will walk around the outside of a car a little bit more so than they would have done before. So it's just like smaller things like that as well. I don't know. I mean, if you've got any other kind of more interesting things that you've seen in your local areas, then just drop us an email. Drop it to support@driving.org. And Howard and I'll have a little look with interest and see if there's anything that we need to be sharing or letting everyone else know, and to watch out for.
And for those who haven't been back to work yet, just be careful of the pop-up bike lanes that start to exist now as well. So students may not be familiar with those, so just keep an eye out for those as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Time to sign off, I think, isn't it?
I think it is. I'm just doing one more quick sweep of the questions and things in the chat box. Okie dokie. No, looks. I think we're good. So, folks, we're going to wrap up the session now. So, thank you again so much for joining us today. Thank you for an informative. We learn from you as well as you hopefully learning some things from us.
Yeah, we do indeed.
And thank you for being such a great community. We're it's so lovely to have you on board and be working with you all. And we'll, as I say, as DIA and also as NAS, we'll continue to update you as soon as there's anything. Put your burning questions onto that email that we sent around yesterday morning, so we can get those together and ask the DVSA on your behalf. That'll be brilliant. And the recording for this session will be available probably early next week now, I imagine. But if you need it on there, don't forget as well the National Association Strategic Partnership website, so you can see lots of things on there as well. So have a little look on there. also. Thank you, everyone, and take care, stay safe, and stay in touch. And we'll speak to you again soon.
Have an enjoyable weekend. Goodbye, everyone.
Weekend, yeah. Take care, everyone. Bye.